What happens when sensitive information, stuff that's supposed to be hidden, suddenly bursts out into the open?
Yeah, it can completely reshape politics, spark these huge debates.
Exactly. Today, we're plunging into, well, a really complex connection between power, information, and how they sometimes collide in frankly surprising ways.
Hmm.
We're looking specifically at how these high-stakes allegations, things like classified leaks and official inquiries, can, shake the very foundations of government.
Right.
You probably remember the headlines,
Mm.
a period not long ago where accusations were just flying back and forth.
Oh, yeah, involving top officials, national security stuff.
Yeah,
It was intense.
we're talking investigations, then counter-investigations, this whole battle over information. And it centered around claims about a president maybe leveraging foreign aid.
And on the other side, claims about a House committee leader maybe leaking classified info.
What's really fascinating here is how you get these different sources. Sometimes they totally conflict, but they paint this picture where information and who controls it is right at the center of the fight.
It's overwhelming, isn't it? The sheer number of claims and counterclaims. It makes it hard to see clearly what's going on.
Totally.
So our mission today is really to untangle those threads for you.
Okay, so this deep dive, it's focusing on how official actions or alleged misconduct and these supposed improper disclosures become public knowledge.
And the intense struggle for accountability that kicks off right after.
Yeah. We'll look at that impeachment inquiry, the one accusing a president of using foreign aid to get specific political investigations going.
But then we also have to look at these starkly contrasting claims, really serious ones, that a House committee leader might have actually greenlit leaking classified data.
So the core question for us, I think, is how do these completely different sides of the coin, controlling information versus disclosing it, how do they fundamentally change how we understand what government does and who's held accountable?
Exactly. Our mission is to unpack the key claims, the counterclaims, using the sources you've given us. We want to help you understand the reported events, the legal stuff in play, and just the different ways people saw these really high-profile incidents,
We'll sort through the specifics, try to give you a clearer picture of what reportedly happened.
highlighting the big so what moments,
Oh.
why it matters.
Okay, let's dig in. We're going to start with the allegations laid out in the Trump-Ukraine impeachment inquiry report. This was from back in December 2019.
Right, a really detailed report.
And it lays out what it calls a central claim of executive misconduct.
Exactly. The House report claims President Trump was allegedly trying to get foreign interference from Ukraine specifically to help his re-election campaign.
And it wasn't just asking, according to the report.
No, the report claims it involved conditioning two pretty big official acts.
Which were?
First, a White House visit for Ukraine's President Zelensky,
Yeah,
which is, a big deal symbolically.
sure.
And second, critical U.S. military assistance. We're talking hundreds of millions in security aid, $391 million specifically mentioned.
And what was allegedly wanted in return for these conditioned official acts, as the report calls them.
It points to these desired, politically motivated investigations.
Okay, like what?
Well, probes into Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden, and also into this theory, the idea that Ukraine, not Russia, interfered in the 2016 U.S. election.
Ah, the CrowdStrike theory.
That's the one. The report makes a point of saying intelligence agencies widely debunk that idea.
Right. And a key moment the report highlights is that July 25th, 2019 phone call, the one between President Trump and President Zelensky.
Yeah, that call became infamous, didn't it? And the
Sure.
White House, under a lot of public pressure, they did end up declassifying and releasing a memo of that call.
And this is where the information control part gets really interesting, right? Because National Security Council staff, people like Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, Timothy Morrison, they reportedly raised concerns about what was said on the call.
And according to the report, that led to the call memo being put onto a highly classified server.
Which limited who could actually see it.
Severely limited access. Morrison apparently called it an unusual request, which, suggests something about how sensitive they thought it was, how it was being handled inside the White House.
Okay. The report then brings in these key players. It describes them as working through irregular channels, basically outside the normal diplomatic process.
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani, President Trump's personal attorney at the time, is identified as leading what the report calls a smear campaign against Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch.
And that campaign, the report claims, led to her being abruptly pulled out of Ukraine.
That's what it says. And think about this. The report suggests her anti-corruption work there was actually bothering people like the prosecutor general at the time, Yuri Lutsenko.
Who the report calls corrupt.
Right. And it says he then worked with Giuliani. It sort of paints this picture where fighting corruption might have clashed with certain political goals.
And then there were the three amigos.
Yes, Ambassador Gordon Sondland, Ambassador Kurt Volker, and Secretary Rick Perry. The report alleges that even though they had official roles, President Trump directed them to talk to Rudy about Ukraine.
With the feeling that nothing would happen otherwise.
That was the implication, yeah. Nothing would move forward unless Rudy was involved. And what's more, the report claims that the hold on the military aid, Ukrainian officials apparently knew about it before it even hit the news publicly on August 28, 2019.
Wow. So the information was getting out even if there were attempts to keep it quiet.
Seems like it. Which leads to these claims of a quid pro quo.
Okay, so the report says point blank that Trump's people made that quid pro quo clear to Ukrainian officials.
It does. But then you also have Ambassador Sondland's testimony noted in there where he says there was no quid pro quo. But he then apparently added that President Zelensky must announce the opening of the investigations and he should want to do it to get the aid released.
So that sounds complicated. It really highlights how these interactions could be interpreted differently.
It definitely raises questions about intent, communication, perception, all of that. The report also points to a text message from August 8th
Right.
from a Ukrainian aide, Andrei Yermak, to Volker. It mentioned announcing investigations into Burisma and election meddling.
And Burisma, just for context, that's the Ukrainian energy company where Hunter Biden was involved?
Exactly. So the report connects these dots, saying that even after the impeachment inquiry started, President Trump was still publicly saying he wanted Ukraine and even China to investigate the Bidens.
Suggesting he was still pursuing it regardless of the formal inquiry.
That's the implication drawn in the report, yes.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. But still within that same House report, there were also allegations about obstruction, right? And witness intimidation.
Yes, another significant part of the report. It claims President Trump directed all federal officials in the executive branch not to testify, even when compelled by subpoena.
Even under subpoena.
That's the claim.
Yeah.
And also to defy all duly authorized subpoenas for records. If that's accurate, it's a major challenge to Congress's power to investigate.
Yeah, that goes right to the heart of checks and balances.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about the separation of powers. The report lists examples of documents it says were withheld, like briefing materials for that July 25th call, notes from Vindman and Morrison, and even a presidential decision memo that apparently recommended lifting the hold on the aid.
And the White House response?
Well, their defense was basically that the inquiry was partisan, that it wasn't properly authorized.
Yeah.
And they claimed absolute immunity for top aides.
So setting up a battle over executive privilege versus congressional oversight.
Pretty much, that was the framing.
And beyond the documents, the report talks about witness intimidation.
It does. It describes President Trump publicly attacking and intimidating witnesses who testified or were scheduled to.
Any specific examples?
Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch is one. After she testified, she said she felt shocked and threatened by things Trump said during that July 25th call, like telling Zelensky she's going to go through some things.
Wow. You can imagine the chilling effect that might have.
For sure. And then Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who had raised those internal concerns about the call, President Trump publicly called him a never-Trumper.
Question his loyalty.
Right. There was even a retweet suggesting he'd been offered the job of Ukraine's defense minister. And then, of course, there's the whistleblower.
The person who started it all, really.
The report details President Trump attacking the whistleblower repeatedly, publicly, calling them a CIA agent, fake, a political operative, saying they gave false stories.
And the report points out there are federal laws protecting whistleblowers.
Yes, it specifically notes the laws protecting their identity and protecting them from retaliation, underscoring the potential legal seriousness of those alleged actions.
Okay, so that's one whole set of claims from the House report. But now we need to look at a contrasting set of claims, coming from a different source and the broader context in information control.
Right, because we also have allegations reported by our Fox News source that focus on Representative Adam Schiff. He was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee at the time.
Okay, and what's the claim there?
What's really interesting here is that, according to this Fox News source, another whistleblower, This one, reportedly, a former Democratic staffer on Schiff's committee apparently told the FBI back in 2017.
2017, so earlier.
Yes, told the FBI that a Democrat lawmaker, who the source implies was Schiff, actually greenlit leaking classified information on Trump.
Whoa, okay, so that directly pits one set of allegations against the other, both involving alleged misuse of sensitive information, but for opposite political goals.
Exactly. And the specific claim reported by Fox News is pretty stark. It quotes the whistleblower allegedly reporting. Schiff stated the group would leak classified information which was derogatory to President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Schiff stated the information would be used to indict President Trump.
Used to indict him, that's a heavy claim.
Very heavy. The whistleblower also reportedly said they were worried about it being illegal.
I would imagine so.
But they were allegedly reassured by unnamed people at this supposed meeting that they would not be caught leaking classified information. If that account is accurate, it paints a picture of a deliberate strategy to use classified data as a political weapon.
Which definitely raises huge questions about the weaponization of intelligence.
Absolutely. And Kash Patel, who is quoted in that same Fox News source, puts it bluntly. He says, for years, certain officials used their positions to selectively leak classified information to shape political narratives.
So suggesting it wasn't just a one-off thing, but maybe a pattern.
That's the implication in his quote, yeah. That information control itself became a political tool.
And there was something else mentioned about Tulsi Gabbard.
Right. She reportedly released documents she called unclassified back in July.
July of which year? This can get confusing.
Good point. The timing matters. The source mentions July, likely meaning relatively recently in the context of when the article was written, but it connects back. These documents reportedly show overwhelming evidence suggesting the Obama administration laid the groundwork for the Trump-Russia probe after the 2016 election.
Okay, so that connects to this bigger narrative about how information, even if it's declassified later, can be used to sort of reframe past events and sway public opinion.
Precisely. And tying this back to the legal side, if we look at our Congressional Research Service source on criminal prohibitions on leaks.
What does that tell us?
Well, it emphasizes that, yes, there are criminal laws against leaking classified defense information. It underscores the legal seriousness of any unauthorized disclosures, like the ones alleged against Schiff or potentially others.
And it also mentioned the Impoundment Control Act again.
Yes, just as a reminder of the legal framework around controlling funds. A president can ask to delay spending money Congress has approved, but Congress generally needs to sign off on that delay. The funds have to be available unless Congress explicitly says otherwise.
So that provides important legal context for the aid-related allegations in the impeachment report.
Exactly. It helps understand the rules that were supposedly broken in these different scenarios.
Okay, so let's try to bring all these threads together. We've covered this really fascinating, incredibly intense period of political trauma.
Heavily intense.
And it's all rooted in these claims about presidential conduct, foreign policy, yes, but fundamentally about the act of disclosing information or withholding it.
Right. We saw the reports about a president allegedly tying vital aid to getting investigations.
And then simultaneously, these reports about a key House committee leader allegedly orchestrating leaks against that same president.
It's like two sides of the same coin, isn't it? Both dealing with who controls sensitive information and the alleged manipulation of that information at the very top levels of government.
Yeah. So if we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, what does this deep dive really show us?
I think it powerfully illustrates just how quickly high-level information can be turned into a political weapon. How it can challenge, democratic norms, the rule of law itself.
And it raises that tough question for all of us, right? In this era where information just flows constantly, where you have competing stories, intense political divide.
How do we as citizens figure out what's true? How do we sort truth from political spin when the very sources of information, the processes, become battlegrounds?
So thinking about the future, what does all this mean for how government works, for the public's right to know?
Well, the sources we looked at, they reveal this deep, ongoing struggle over who controls information and how that information gets used or maybe withheld to shape how we see things, to shape political outcomes.
It really leaves us thinking, what are the long-term consequences? When trust in our institutions, trust in facts, just becomes another battlefield. It forces us all to navigate this incredibly complex landscape of claims and counterclaims just to figure out what might actually be happening.